like I said, I have like kind of a non-traditional path. So I haven't really ever stayed in one company or organization for a super long time. So I don't know how to speak about getting promoted. What I have done is sought out new opportunities and like moved. And so for me, what I would say is that while you are at your current position, whether it's in an impact driven organization or communications, you have to learn as much as you can and try like be a part of as many different kinds of projects as possible. So for me, like initially started my comms career not even in comms. I was at a marketing agency, but my boss was like, "Okay, I need you to do social media management," and I wasn't really like that excited at first. But I saw that it would be relevant for. I saw that I was good at it. I had done a little bit of that before, and so I realized that being able to do different things like outside just what your box is or your role is at whatever organization you're in gives you that training that you need to be able to say, okay, if I'm getting promoted or I'm moving to a different organization, I've been able to do XYZ. And that makes you more valuable. I found that in my experience anyway, being able to have experience with project management as well as communications, also having, that's working with nonprofits directly. It's all like kind of helped me to be able to find the kind of roles that I've been looking for that have really, been made for me, I guess. So, yeah.
Quickly, yeah, that's a good one. And I'll piggyback right off of that, right? So what you're kind of talking about, at least related to my field, is more the combination of soft and hard skills. And that's, putting it another way, field experience and office experience. And I see the most people that excel in my organization are those that are able to combine both and do it in a way that looks seamless and utilize, the gifts and talents from both sides of the sector, and employ them in their work.
Yeah, I think that for me also from a lot of, I think that we have mainly spotted talent, and so we have hardly recruited people from an online link or from a recruiting agency. Oftentimes, during a session, if the summit was live, for instance, some of the questions that people will ask, and things like how people network after an event, oftentimes is how we spot talent. And then we have multiple examples of people like that within our organization. Beyond the ability to spot talent, is also going to be based on referrals. So oftentimes you've done really good work somewhere, and then one conversation leads to another, and then we get information about a particular person, and then we bring them in and then figure it out. I think that the way we realize that people get promoted really is about your I don't want to say experience in terms of 3 years or 5 years of experience, but similar to what Adaeze was saying, you had a role, and then later on they switched you up to doing more social media management, and how exactly you transition between your former role to the current one. Really observing some of these things is how we recognize that people are building capacity, and then we realize that they could probably fill in a higher role. And that's how things have typically happened. People need to be curious. People need to demonstrate that they are giving us results, and then once we spot that, we are able to easily or quickly get you into a different role or get you promoted. And so that's how it's been for us.
Yeah. I also want to add that volunteer experience is really helpful, or just like volunteering to work on projects or outside your role. Because for me, like if I didn't volunteer to do certain things, I wouldn't have had that experience to put out, like to add to my CV or to say I've been able to work on this XYZ thing. And then also, that's like something that's been really important to me for my career path anyway. So if anyone has questions, you can put it in the chat. So, yeah.
Adaeze, I was going to piggyback on that, because I was going to give the lady who heads communications within our company today, got promoted really through a volunteer experience. We had a session we called a makerspace session, where we're doing some design work for persons with disability. And then at the end of the event, there was just a very random question asked that said, "Hey, who wants to write an article about what just happened over the last 2 weeks?" And then the person who shot her hand up first, and then in about 24 hours, came out with a really great article where we literally didn't have any additions to make. She is the youngest person on our management team. I think she's currently about 23 years old. And then she still handles all our communication stuff. And that really was possible because of that volunteer experience that she did about 3 years ago. And so that just speaks to the fact that once you do the volunteer, once you deliver results, the probability that you get promoted is pretty easy and pretty quickly.
And I just want to add before we move to the next point that sometimes people think to be in the social impact space, or maybe I don't know about if it's the same thing with agriculture, they forget that you have to actually be technically sound. So you mentioned, for example, she wrote an article, there are no errors. So if you're trying to get into like into the communications part of impact, like of an impact driven organization, you still have to be a good writer. You still have to be able to do storytelling, content planning, all these other technical things that maybe you would take for granted if you were working at a bank or something. You still have to understand how to analyze data and trends and things like that. So those are still also really important outside of just having a passion for what you want to do, basically. So I will let you guys handle the manager questions because I think you're probably better positioned than me to answer. So
Could you go ahead and read them so we're on the same page?
so the ones like who is a manager, how are they? I think Nana kind of answered this actually. Who is a manager? How are they discovered? What's the difference between a manager and a good individual contributor? What does the company need from managers? And then what are some differences between good and bad managers?
Yeah, so just quickly to add, right? Like what I've found in my experience is it's quite easy, relatively speaking, to find entry level talent. Essentially, you just want people that are open minded, motivated, and ready to learn. Senior management is also, you can look at people's experience and transfer them over, and they're quite sound. But middle management has always been quite difficult, right? That's a space where if anyone's usually talented, they're out on their own. Have already started their own company. Are not willing to come over for somebody else. And what I'm looking for in that level is responsibility and ownership. So at that stage, it's saying, okay, let me take in this task that's on my desk and be able to disseminate it amongst a group of people, be able to break it down and be innovative around and creative around ideas for solutions. It's really not passing the buck and saying that this is mine and I'm going to figure out a way that I can make this more efficient or manage this process or this team better. And so essentially, it's that level of motivation and ownership that I'm looking for.
Right. I'll piggyback off of that and say it is about your ability to manage people. I'm going to go more to middle, from entry level to middle management. It is about your ability to manage people. That is always a big issue. We have some people who join our team earlier on and they're like, hey, I prefer to work by myself. I prefer to work alone. I get the best results that way. You'd always kind of stay at that entry level because at mid-level management, you're definitely going to have some subordinates and they need to be able to recognize that you care about them and care about their progress. And so the ability to manage people is going to be a big one. Ability to work with little or no supervision. That speaks to both middle level to high level, C-suite level management. But there's something that I think I want to state two things that I think are a little different. I recognize. One is the ability to manage money. For whatever reason, a lot of the youth we meet today talk about, hey, I don't like to handle money, and definitely it's a no-no for me with management level conversations, because if you ever headed a unit or you were part of a unit, you'd have to recognize how the money moves within the company, how the money grows in the company, and what are the factors that cause the money to go down. And so people who make decisions or people who make statements like, hey, I don't like to handle money, or could you give that over to somebody else, is definitely not particularly a plus for us in our organization. And then the little thing here is your ability to communicate visions clearly and then give feedback quickly. So oftentimes you realize that middle level management is probably taking an instruction from somebody who is higher up, and then communicating it to either people who are lower. So your ability to be able to take on that vision and communicate it effectively, breaking down what needs to get done for people to be able to understand. Recognizing that, hey, your team, these are the doers and these are the thinkers for you on your team. And so getting quick feedback as well from those team members is also going to be quite important. And I'll just give a little plus at the bottom, which says, please learn to drive if you're above 18. It is one of those minor things that just just makes a big difference. I realize that. So if you have not learned to drive and you're above 18, please do learn to drive. It's just always a plus for your employer.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you guys have said, and like having managed like smaller teams myself, like being able to take ownership is something that's really important. And I think when you're able to do that, the people that you manage are able to do that as well, and there's fewer excuses all around. So, yeah,